First of all, thank you to Alex and CreativeMornings for inviting me around to chat to all you lovely folk. I see some familiar faces here, which is great. Great for me, it relaxes my soul a bit, so I'll take you on this little journey. As Alex mentioned, I'm David Hartmann. I run an agency called Werewolf. We are a motion graphics design studio based in Edinburgh. We do a lot of 3D animations for products and alcohol drinks. We also do a lot of kind of abstract animations, infographic pieces for various companies around Scotland, UK, and nationwide or international. And we get into a lot more fun kind of animations as well, just to kind of hone our skills and show what we're capable of doing, and hopefully getting brands to buy into what we believe as being really good motion design and design in general. Here we're getting into a lot more interactive kind of design, so working on product visualizations that actually can use augmented reality to enhance the brand experience for our clients is kind of another one of our remits as well. 3D illustrations, kind of bizarre stuff to again enhance our skills and show what we can do externally to our clients and enhance their brands. Interior design we also take a look at in terms of for visitor centers, exhibitions, museums. And this gives us a nice way of integrating some of our 3D skills in terms of photorealistic rendering and enhancing, again, the storytelling methods for our clients and working together to kind of bring their visions to life. We also do a lot of illustration work and stuff, but most of our design work ends up being moving image. So we tell a lot of our storytelling through motion graphics and moving image, but we use a lot of platforms such as projection mapping, interactivity, and whatnot. And this is I created Werewolf over the last year and a half, and we've grown quite substantially in that period of time. We've garnered a lot of clients. But I guess what I want to talk about today is the theme, which is love, or the lack thereof in your design career, in your path that your chosen route within the design communication kind of agency. It's not always an easy thing. So I want to take you back to when I was younger and take you on my journey and how I've developed as a designer and how I kind of overcame hurdles and obstacles that helped me grow as an individual and helped me develop a team that creates hopefully potentially good work for our clients. So this is me at the age of 7 years old. Wee ginger kid, you know, playing in his back garden in North America. I'm from Canada, a small town called Beaumont. At this age, I was really into illustration, doing things with my hands and being as creative as I possibly could. And this image illustrates for me how I've developed my career going forward. So I always did things the most unusual of ways. Here I am with a baseball attached to my head, and I remember specifically my granddad in the back trying to pitch the ball at me going, "That's not how you play baseball, that's not how you do it," right? And I'm like, "No man, this is great, this is brilliant, man, just throw the ball. And I've always done things a little bit differently, and even in school, throughout all my school years through the high school, I've always done things differently, which was a bit of a problem for a lot of my teachers and lecturers, because I just didn't want to do what they were telling me to do, basically. So at a young age, my creativity, especially in North America, where I'm from, anybody with a creative bone, it's really stamped out of you in school. People, they don't see this as actually being a place for you to go or a career for you to follow. They want you to become an academic. They want you, if you're not academic, then you'll become a mechanic, or you'll go work in the oil fields, or you'll become part of the service industry. They don't nurture creativity. So at a young age, they really stamp that out of you. At age 8 in grade 2, my teachers basically hated everything I did creatively, and they stamped it out of me so much that I was almost illiterate. I couldn't read. I was very poor at maths, sciences. I couldn't get it because my self-esteem was so low from the way they kind of treated creativity and people who like to work with their hands and do things a little bit differently, that I had no self-esteem. So going through my whole school, from grade 2 all the way to high school, that was my experience through the whole entire thing. Just to give you an example, in high school, I was given a task in art class. And art class was one of my favorite places to be. It was the only place I felt safe because I could actually be creative. And every other class I basically didn't go to. I didn't like it, so I was in art class. And one of the briefs that we got from the teacher was to create a creature or an animal. So I spent ages developing this life-size feral guardian with a dog's head and a humanoid body out of cardboard with 3D muscles and all that kind of stuff. And when it came to hand it in, my lecturer failed me on that. And I was absolutely irate with that. I was like, why did you fail me on this, And he says, it's because it wasn't an animal. I was like, surely this is it's mythology. It's part of old school kind of animal meets humanoids and all that kind of stuff. This should be okay for this submission. And he was like, no, you failed the submission. So I was like, look, I'll do it right now. I'll redo this submission. So I took the head off. I cut out 2 pieces of cardboard, put it into this shape of the head, and I put it on the table. I said, there you go. It said B. And he was like, okay, 90%. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? This is absurd. I'm trying to flex my creative muscle. And that's just a couple examples. I have that on pretty much every single assignment. I don't know if he had it in for me or whatever, but fair enough, whatever. So working in the design industry it's not too dissimilar from that. You work on client briefs and they water down the content. They go away from their objectives because they're trying to feed in their own ego and their own idea of what that product or what their idea of messaging should be. So working in the creative industry feels something like this for me. It's an icy wet snowball in the face. You're trying to remain positive and happy, and then snap. It's like, come on, I'm just trying to do the best job I can for you, and you're constantly smacking the face with the ice wall. For example, quite recently we worked with a client, and if I ever have to use a light bulb or a brain to symbolize thought and creativity again, I swear to God, I'm going to be the one throwing snowballs if I can find any snow anywhere, right? So, yeah, there's a client, they wanted to have creative thought, where you have to use a brain to describe creative thought or a light bulb to describe creative thought. And I hate going down the obvious route. I like going down the abstract route, trying to find new ways to highlight ideas and concepts for our clients. And a lot of times when you're working in the industry, you start to work on social trends as well. So you'll find that there could be 2 or 3 years where it's just a particular trend that every client is going for. There was one in the last few years, and it's probably still ongoing. It's tailing out right now, and it's the hipster trend, right? So big beards and rustic buildings and all that kind of stuff. So all of our clients will come to us, and I'm talking all of our clients, and this is from drinks brands to biotech brands to all this stuff. And they come to us and they'd be like, we want to create a hipster vibe for our visitor center, for our pub, for our bar, and you're just regurgitating the same thing over and over. It's so disheartening as a designer. So disheartening as a designer to have to deal with the same issues over and over again. Even though their objectives might have been a bit different or their strategics were a bit different, you constantly are regurgitating the same thing over. And at that point as a designer, you've got to ask your client and yourself, if everyone's doing this right now, maybe we should think about doing something different and trying to sell that into them, which is not always an easy way to do it. So, when you're faced with these hurdles and these issues with your clients, and internally as a designer, when you want to create stuff, you have a tendency to get to a point where you just want to run away from this. You just want to go, what am I doing here as a designer? What are we doing as a company? What am I doing as an individual? I need to get away from this. This is absurd. And you get kind of like, you get a bit scared of like the next step of pushing boundaries and showing the capabilities of what you can do for yourself and for your clients and for your company that you work with. And what I've found through this journey and going back to, even that childhood experience, that story I told you about where I created that feral guardian, I think as designers, what we need to do first is to break down the ego barriers. I speak for myself, and I think I speak for a lot of designers. We usually go into a job and we think of ourselves almost as artists. We go in and we talk to our clients and we pound the idea of this is our aesthetic, this is my aesthetic, this is what I want to create for you, And we're trying to solve our own problem in this situation. We're not trying to solve our clients' problems. And that goes back to the brief of the Pharaoh. I was trying to solve my own problem of creativity rather than actually looking at the brief, at the specifics of the brief. And at the end of the day, he wanted an animal. He wanted us to express it in terms of a real life animal. But I took it from a different angle. So dealing with clients is quite similar. I go into a client meeting sometimes and I'm just like, this is a good idea, this is a great trend, this is what I think is awesome, and I do all the talking. And I try to force feed my clients and get them to buy into my idea without really looking at their objectives. And that's the wrong way to do this. So when it was probably only about a year ago or 2 years ago, I realized that it was my ego that was playing up as a designer. And I wasn't actually catering to my clients' wants and needs, even though we were in some respects, but I was always forcing it down the throat. So I tried to scrap that as much as I could. Excuse me, I gotta get some water. Too many words. I try to scrap my ego when I go into a job nowadays, and my ego was getting in the way. It was making me unhappy. So now, when I'm dealing with clients, I think the first thing that we need to do as designers is listen. Just shut up and listen. Let them talk about their brands. Let them tell you their stories and what they're doing this for, and tell you about their objectives. And ask open-ended questions. Keep it open so they're giving you information and helping you create the best product or service that you can for them as a designer. And as soon as you break down those egos, I think that you'll feel a little bit more fulfilled as well. You're no longer trying to fit within your own design aesthetics, and then at the end of the day going to your client like, here's my big idea, this is what I think you should be doing. And if they don't buy into that idea, you're like, you're a rubbish client. We're designers. That's not the point of what we do. We're here to help our clients solve their problems. So, even though we have to listen to our clients, which I think is a super key to success as a designer, to feel fulfilled, we still have to persevere as individuals, right? We're all racing towards the same thing. We all want to create really, really good work with integrity and brilliance and all that kind of stuff. But we feel like this. We're chasing after the same thing, and we keep stumbling over each other. And there's actually one guy in here that is the epitome. I highlighted him. He's coming up in a second. This is me. And this is how I feel, a lot of designers feel like. Here he comes. Wait for it. Ah. It's taking a moment. There he is. Look, that's me. Oh! You're like, I'm getting there, and then you're like, smack, you hit a wall with the clients, or your ego comes into play, and you've lost the concept, so you become uninspired about what you're doing. But I think as individuals, we still have to persevere. We have to push ourselves and try to hone our skills to give the best to our clients that we possibly can. So, how do we remain inspired? I think being comfortable as a designer is probably, being comfortable, period, is one of the worst attributes of anybody. I mean, you know, it's nice to go into your office and sit there at your desk and work on projects that you're familiar with, or work with clients that you're familiar with. But I think you need to put yourself out of your comfort zone and try new techniques. Try to get your clients to buy into some of your ideas. They're not going to buy into everything, but if you can get them to get into to a particular idea that you believe in, even if it's one little fraction of your design, I think you've done your job really, really well. Also, to remain inspired is to remove yourself from the computer. You know, all devices. Get away from that. Get outside. Encourage yourself to be involved in different activities that isn't design related. Design is only one aspect of being a designer. You know, experience is another. Putting yourself outside those comfort zones. For example, I'm a massive mountain biker. I love going fast. I love like skydiving and paragliding. Any extreme sports puts me out of my comfort zone. It gets me away from thinking about design work. So when I come back into the agency, I actually feel refreshed and I can give back more to my clients and be more creative, be more stimulated about what I do as a designer. And I guess you guys all have signed up on your labels, yeah? Activities of what you did as a child, yeah? So how many of you, raise your hands, how many of you actually still enjoy that activity today? Awesome. It's a good few. I mean, I think it's very important to rekindle what we enjoyed as a child. You know, whether that's comic books, playing role-playing games, like I am, I'm super geek with this stuff, you know. Drawing again, illustration, skateboarding, biking, all this kind of stuff brings inspiration to me. And I think it's great that a lot of you are still holding on to that. That's brilliant. And I only found that out a few years ago. You know, I worked so hard to become the best designer I could be, but I forgot about all of these little passions that I loved and that actually feed into my creativity. So yeah, definitely if you're not doing anything from your childhood, find something you enjoy and rekindle that passion again. So, one of my favorite skateboarders, Rodney Mullen, he's probably the most creative skateboarder on the planet. The stuff that he can do with a board is phenomenal. He floats like a spaceman, it's crazy. He said this quote quite recently actually, "There's nothing better than being a beginner, and nothing worse than trying to guard what you own." There's two parts to that. So, nothing better than being a beginner. I think you've got to constantly, as a designer, put yourself out of that comfort zone and learn new techniques. If you're a print designer, try web design. If you're a web designer or a print designer, try 3D, try motion graphics, try photography, try arts and sculpture and crafts and all that kind of stuff to get new perspectives and figure out new ways of solving problems and putting yourself out of that comfort zone so you can feed back into your design processes. And the second thing is like, nothing worse than trying to guard what you own. I think you get to a certain point where you've learned so much on your own and you hold this stuff in and you guard it with all your life and you don't share it. It's like, this is mine, I worked really, really hard, I'm not going to give you this information. I can't tell you how many times I spent in front of the computer for months trying to figure out how to render something at photorealistic quality, and it comes down to being like 0.1 of a difference in a setting. You know, it's so frustrating. And you sit there and you hold this inside, but I think to become inspired again, you share this knowledge. You get to a point in your life and your career where you should start sharing this knowledge and it reciprocates. So as you start sharing this knowledge, whether it's through education, whether it's through events and talks, whether it's just about collaborating with people, sharing that, you get so much back from people that you share this stuff with. Not only do they ask you questions, I've had people come up to me and ask me for a particular problem they need to solve, and I was like, man, I haven't done that for like 10 years, so now I have to go back and relearn it, which is exciting for me. You know, it might be an old school process, but it feels good because I've rekindled that kind of that passion again for those techniques. And beyond sharing is constantly make stuff. Always make stuff. Whether it's you got 5 minutes downtime at work, you know, get on the computer, try some new technique. I think the methodology of agencies nowadays, if any of you guys work in agencies, it's like you pan yourself out, you work really, really hard all the time, you work late hours to construct an idea for your clients when you're not really honing your skills in the agency or in the field that you love. And Werewolf's methodology is you come to work with us and do what you love to do. And I think that needs to be expressed through all agencies. So not only do we have downtime for our creatives to express themselves, it might be a day a week, it might be 10 minutes or half an hour here or there that we set aside. But I think it's really important for agencies to adopt this So they allow their artists and designers to feel creative and want to be in the office. So when they leave, they don't feel the need to go home and have to like create the things they want to create. They're doing it in the office. So when they go home, they're doing all these other things that we're talking about. You know, all this adventurous stuff, or rekindling what they were doing as a child, or just hanging out and being lame. You know, just being chilled out and relaxed. So when they come back to the office, they're feeling good about it, and they can give so much more back to the clients they're working with and the people that they surround themselves with. So that brings us back to the love of design. So rather than being brokenhearted, love is easy. You know, love is the easiest thing. It's all the work that comes with it that's really hard. So staying inspired, staying fulfilled, finding new ways to get yourself out there and collaborate with people, whether it's education or whatnot. So I think we just need to share the love. And that's me.